Okay, we are up to Chapter 2, An Epic Fail. Leo knew from his previous visits to Yak Spike Island that it was filled with tiny caves and grottos, but none he'd previously encountered was as small and claustrophobic as the one they now found themselves in. A peculiar fluorescent glow illuminated the walls, revealing that it was barely bigger than an elevator. It was also a completely dead end with no sign of an exit. "I nearly drowned back in that tunnel," said Abby, her voice quivering. I think I actually died for a few seconds." "How was it?" Leo said, trying to ignore the sharky aftertaste in his mouth. "Not awesome." "I can strongly recommend never turning into an eel," said Leo, rubbing his jaws, which were throbbing from his return. "Yeah," said Abby, pulling a change of clothes from her backpack and throwing them at him. "You look seriously ugly, even for you." "At least I saved you from being eaten by that bull shark." "I felt like I was eaten by that bull shark," she replied. That was true enough. A row of bloody grazes along Abby's heels suggested that the shark had barely missed making a meal of her foot. Worse, the journey through the underwater tunnel had left her looking like she squeezed through a paper shredder. Nevertheless, Leo couldn't help but feeling proud of pulled off such an ideal turn to get them out of a life-or-death situation. He had to admit it had been kind of cool. "At least we got in," said Leo, pulling on a scrappy t-shirt and cargo shorts in the semi-darkness. He had long since lost all of his favourite clothes because of unexpected turns. Every decent outfit he owned had been torn to shreds or lost. He soon worked out why Abby bought all of her clothes, always black, at second-hand stores. It wasn't because she wanted to look edgy. They simply couldn't afford the never-ending clothes supply. Not on their dad's mechanics income, and especially not while Abby was studying at university. Leo put it all out of his mind. Clothes were not important. "What's important," he said, continuing his own thoughts out loud, "is that now we can find whatever Emerson Trimble wanted us to find. Hopefully, that's the hard part." He was about to say, "Hopefully the hard part is behind us." "Do you have to, Ebony? Come on, leave it alone." He was about to say he hoped the hard part was behind us when he heard an ear-splitting rumble and the underwater cave entrance they'd just emerged from seconds ago was buried beneath a pile of tumbling rocks. They were utterly trapped. "Nothing about this is good," said Abby, surveying the blockage. "At least we have each other," said Leo, smiling optimistically. Abby glanced at him. "Nothing about this is good." As the seawater lapped at their feet, they methodically examined every inch of the grotto looking for an escape. Leo knew that Emerson Trimble had threaded a network of concealed doorways and tunnels throughout the island, some of which Leo and Abby had stumbled through on their first visit to Yak Spike Island a little over 6 months ago. "The thing I don't understand," said Leo, as he looked for any sign of a secret door or lever, "is why Emerson Trimble insisted that both of us had to come. Why not just one of us?" "Maybe he didn't want you to be lonely," said Abby, inspecting a deep cut on her elbow. Leo thought of all the people he would rather be stuck with in a tiny cave. His best friend Jinx, who was currently in hospital regrowing half his face after accidentally supergluing his hand to it at school camp. Lily Cummings, the girl in his class on whom he had long harboured a secret crush, and who, he had recently discovered, could actually maybe be interested in him too. Or maybe even Ernie Seaborn, the smallest kid in his class at Crichton Bluff High, who Leo had discovered just days ago was a Turner as well. He felt a tremor in the floor and looked down to see a stream of bubbles rising in the water at his feet. "I have a feeling this is not going to end well," he said. "Nothing has ended well since your 13th birthday," muttered Abby. She looked at her feet. "Oh, goody, the water's getting deeper." As they searched every corner of the cave for an exit, the water level rose faster, first to their shins and soon their knees and then their waists. "This is bad," sang Abby, trying to climb up the slippery walls. "You know I'm meant to be studying for my vet science exams right now." "What's stopping you?" said Leo. Let me think," said Abby, mockingly putting her finger to her chin. "Oh, that's because I haven't been to a single class since you barged off that stupid camp and dragged us all into this mess." The water was up to their necks now. Abby raised her arms above her head and pounded on the wall with her fist, yelling, "Open up!" "We should have let Dad come with us," said Leo, desperately treading water. Dad would never have made it through those tunnels back there, said Abby, spitting seawater. Well, this is nice, gasped Leo, struggling to keep his mouth above the waterline. Good times, real nice times, slowly drowning in a tiny cave with my big sis. And then all the air was gone. In the phosphorescent underwater glow, Leo saw Abby frantically searching for an air pocket. In his mind, he urged her to turn, but it must not have been quite night time yet. But even if she could turn, what good would it do? There was nowhere to go. Sure, she could turn into some sort of fish, but he would still be trapped. More bubbles gurgled up from below, and Leo felt the air in his lungs expiring as white flashes appeared before his eyes. So, this was what it was like to drown. It sucked. In the water beside him, Abby remained perfectly still, holding her breath. Leo felt like he was drifting away from her, as if an invisible cord were pulling his body into a world of white. Leo resigned himself to the fact that they had failed on their quest before they had even started. They would never find out what Emerson Trimble had wanted them to discover on his island, and Vernon would be left back at Wharfport, waiting and wondering what happened to them. It was a harrowing thought, but then the image of his dad alone on the pier was fading from his oxygen-deprived brain. Suddenly, a deep clanking sound echoed from up beneath him, followed immediately by a deafening whoosh as the entire floor of the grotto dropped away like an enormous trapdoor. Air surged up and around them, and all at once they were sliding, fast. Leo plunged at breakneck speed, gasping for breath. The world was a blur. Hello, darling. The whiteness that had enveloped him only seconds before evaporated, and he saw that he was hurtling through a perfectly symmetrical rock tunnel. An extreme waterslide glowing with dappled light. An endless rush of green and blue whizzed by as he picked up speed by the second. There was no way he could control how fast he was going. His stomach dropped and flipped as he flew down and up and around and down again. Leo had been on water slides before. There was an ancient water park in Critten's Bluff that his dad used to take him and Abby to in summer. But even the park's most notorious ride, Vomit Valley, was nothing compared to the endless spiral through which Leo was now careening. He heard Abby scream somewhere ahead as he grabbed desperately at the walls, trying to slow himself down, but the tunnel was caked with slippery moss. It ended as suddenly as it had started, and he slid on his back at frightening speed along a smooth groove cutting across a flat, mossy rock plateau. He lifted his head to see where he was going and wished at once that he hadn't. He was heading straight towards the edge of a ravine. He clutched frantically at the slippery ground but could not slow himself. I'm going to fly off the cliff, he thought. He was right. He flew off the cliff. Our next chapter is called Chapter 3, A Deep Voice in the Deep Darkness.